Here's the game plan for today. First, essential DevOps interview prep. Second, GitHub, code and collaboration. Third, GitHub, security and automation. Fourth, Terraform, infrastructure as code. Fifth, the daily DevOps workflow. And finally, number 6, how to stand out.
Okay, starting off with Section 1, Essential DevOps Interview Prep.
Listen, interviewers do not care if you can just parrot back textbook definitions. No way. They want to see if you actually get how these tools fit into a real, messy, collaborative environment. So we're decoding these exact foundational GitHub and Terraform cheat sheets today. We're breaking them down so you're not just memorizing answers, you're deeply, intuitively understanding the concepts. It's all about that simple, real-world understanding.
Moving into Section 2, GitHub, code and collaborate.
Let's talk about the absolute foundation of any collaborative project. Now, this is a classic interview question. Git versus GitHub. You absolutely have to dodge this gotcha trap. Just think of it like this. Git is the underlying engine running locally on your laptop, right? But GitHub, that's the web-based vehicle that actually lets your whole team drive together. Which brings us to the pull request, or the PR. This right here is literally the heartbeat of team collaboration. When your interviewer asks you about PRs or the dreaded merge complex, they aren't just making small talk. They're secretly testing your ability to isolate your feature branches and, more importantly, handle those inevitable team workflow collisions before everything gets merged into the main project. And honestly, I love this quote because it hits the nail right on the head. You aren't coding in a vacuum. You're building alongside a bunch of other people. Grasping that collaborative nature of GitHub is, for sure, just as critical as writing the slickest code.
All right, Section 3, GitHub, security and automation.
Because, writing the code is literally just step 1. Now we actually have to protect it and stop doing the same boring tasks over and over. You got to enforce branch protection rules, require those PRs and status checks, and for the love of everything, manage your secure data with GitHub secrets. By showing you leverage GitHub Actions for CI/CD automation, you're proving to the interviewer that you genuinely care about code quality. It shows you're looking at the whole shebang, not just your specific piece of the puzzle. Here's a super simple breakdown. If they hit you with, hey, how do you contribute to a repository? Just confidently walk them through this exact 5-step lifecycle. You fork it, you clone it, create a branch, make your changes, and submit that pull request. Bam! It's practical, hands-on, and shows you actually know your stuff.
Let's pivot to Section 4, Terraform, infrastructure as code.
Okay, so the code is safe and sound. Now, let's talk about Terraform, basically the construction crew with the internet. Here's a major distinction you absolutely have to nail. Terraform versus Ansible. Interviewers go crazy for this comparison. So here's a pro coaching tip for you to visualize it. Terraform builds the house, but Ansible comes in later and arranges all the furniture, right? Terraform spins up the physical servers and networks, and then Ansible steps in to configure the software on them. Keep it that simple. Now, what about Terraform modules? Think of these as your prefabricated building blocks. They save you massive amounts of time and keep your code base incredibly clean. Instead of writing the exact same code for a web server from scratch 100 times, no thank you, you write a module once and just call it whenever you need it. It cuts down on duplication like you wouldn't believe. Oh, and then there's configuration drift. This is a big one. This happens when somebody goes rogue and changes the infrastructure manually outside of Terraform, like, tweaking a firewall rule directly in the AWS console just because it's fast. To avoid drift, the golden rule is you absolutely must make all changes strictly through Terraform. Going behind its back and tweaking things manually literally defeats the entire purpose of infrastructure as code. Moving right along to Section 5, the daily DevOps workflow. So, let's tie all these isolated puzzle pieces together into one real-world comprehensive flow. Check out this breakdown. It maps out the overarching architecture beautifully. GitHub stores your code, S3 holds the central state, DynamoDB locks it so developer B has to wait for developer A, and then your CI/CD handles the actual deployment. It's this perfect, elegant system of checks and balances that interviewers are just dying to see that you grasp. But what does this actually look like in practice? If they ask, hey, what does your daily Terraform workflow look like? You just confidently walk them through these 6 precise steps. You update the code, create the PR, review it, run a plan, apply it, and verify. Doing that proves you aren't just reading theory off a wiki, you actually know how to do the job day in and day out. Honestly, it all just boils down to this one simple formula. Code plus state plus process equals consistent infrastructure. And hey, definitely drop a mention that managing your dev, UAT, and production environments, it really just comes down to separating those state files to keep that infrastructure consistent across the board.
Almost there. Section 6. How to stand out.
So let's look at what the interviewer is secretly grading you on behind all that technical trivia. As your coach, here are my pro tips to really make you shine. First off, they do not want to hire a human dictionary. They want a problem solver. You've got to clearly vocalize your thought process. Back up your knowledge with actual project examples. Talk about how you use these tools in reality, rather than just rattling off CLI commands. Just be confident, and above all, show them you're hungry to keep learning. So, armed with this structured, super simple understanding of the code and the infrastructure, you've got the blueprint. But here is the real, ultimate question you need to ask yourself before you walk into that room. If they literally handed you the keys to production right now, would you know exactly what to build first? Stick to this simplified foundation, trust your process, and seriously, go absolutely crush that interview.